Welcome back, beautiful souls and seekers of healing, truth, and transformation. You've probably heard versions of this parenting advice. Don't pick up the baby too much. You'll spoil them. Ignore their crying. They just want attention. Be strict, not soft. Children should be seen, not heard. Most people don't know that a lot of this old school parenting can be traced back to one man, a man who told parents to avoid hugging, holding, or comforting their own children. This is the story of John B. Watson and the antidote the next generation desperately needs. This is one of the most important things I've learned in my career as a clinician and as a PhD student, and I feel compelled to share it. Many of us lived through this without understanding why it felt wrong or why something inside us never fully settled. Here's the explanation we've been missing and why this awareness matters so deeply. We need cycle breakers, not just for our families, but for the next generations of humanity. Let's start with the truth about John B. Watson, because the real story is very different from what most people imagine. Watson is often called the father of behaviorism, the man who claimed he could take any infant and shape them into anything. A doctor, a lawyer, even a criminal, simply through environmental conditioning. But here's the part almost nobody talks about. Watson wasn't even a trained psychologist. His academic background was actually in philosophy, not clinical psychology, not child development, not emotional science. And after his early career, he became known not for advancing scientific knowledge, but for something very different: public relations and advertising. He used marketing, persuasion, repetition, and emotional manipulation, the same techniques used to sell products, to sell parenting advice. And it worked, maybe a little too well. There's another crucial part of Watson's story. In 1920, he was fired from Johns Hopkins University after a scandal with his research assistant. The university removed him abruptly, and he never returned to academic work. Instead of disappearing, Watson did something unexpected. He reinvented himself as a PR executive. And in that world, he thrived. He used his marketing skills to shape public opinion, and soon he applied the same strategies to parenthood, creating simple, catchy, strict-sounding rules that felt authoritative, even though they weren't based on attachment, neuroscience, or child development. His ideas spread widely, not because they were good science, but because he was highly skilled at selling ideas to the public. That distinction matters. It meant a generation of parents followed advice that felt scientific, but was actually built on marketing, fear, and emotional distance, not child psychology. Watson didn't stop at discouraging affection. He replaced it with cold, almost clinical alternatives. He famously suggested parents should shake hands with their child in the morning. If the child did something impressive, a quick pat on the head was acceptable, but sparingly. He advised parents to keep interactions formal, distant, and professional, as if warmth itself were a dangerous substance. His voice fed into and amplified a cultural belief already present in society. Children should be seen, not heard. Watson gave this harmful idea the illusion of scientific authority, even though he was no longer working in science, and had moved fully into advertising and PR. Yet parents listened, because they were afraid of raising weak children, because they believed expert advice must be correct, because they were taught that affection was indulgence instead of connection. Watson's parenting recommendations were shockingly harsh, even for his time. He warned parents against almost every expression of warmth or tenderness. He insisted that mothers and fathers should avoid hugging, avoid kissing, avoid rocking, and avoid holding children when they were upset. To Watson, affection wasn't comfort, it was contamination. He truly believed physical warmth would weaken children, and that emotional closeness would make them dependent, fragile, or overly sensitive. He took the most natural instinct a parent has to soothe, to hold, to comfort, and reframed it as a threat to the child's development. And many parents, already anxious about doing the right thing, began to question their own intuition. Here's the tragic, often untold part of John Watson's legacy, the part that reveals the true cost of his parenting philosophy. Watson built his career telling the world that children should be raised with distance, strictness, and emotional restraint. But inside his own home, the effects of that coldness were devastating. His children struggled profoundly with their mental health. Several of them battled intense anxiety, deep depression, and lifelong emotional instability. They had trouble forming close, trusting relationships as adults because they never experienced safety or warmth in childhood. This wasn't theoretical, this was lived experience in the very family of the man who preached emotional detachment. Even if you've never heard John Watson's name, you've heard his ghost whispering through the parenting culture you grew up in. You've heard it in phrases like, "Don't spoil that baby," "Stop crying, why, or I'll give you something to cry about," "Toughen up," "Kids manipulate," "Don't coddle them," "You're too soft." These aren't just random sayings, they are the echoes of Watson's philosophy, a worldview that treated children as miniature adults who needed to be hardened, not held. Shaped, not understood, controlled, not comforted. This is Watson's legacy, woven into everyday parenting norms, passed down through grandparents, teachers, coaches, and even well-meaning professionals who thought distance would build strength. The pain went even deeper. One of Watson's children died by suicide. Another attempted it. Their personal writings later revealed a childhood marked by emotional isolation. They described growing up in an environment that was cold, clinical, distant, exactly the type of environment Watson told millions of parents to create. Watson's theories didn't just fail in academic circles, they failed the people who mattered most, his own children. This isn't about blaming him, it's about recognizing evidence. Evidence that tells us something essential. The human heart cannot thrive without warmth. A child's nervous system cannot develop without safety. And no amount of strictness, discipline, or control can ever replace connection. Watson's success didn't come from scientific credibility, it came from his talent in public relations. He understood marketing better than he understood children, and he used that skill to shape entire generations of families. For decades, experts promoted his ideas: emotional distance, early independence, minimal affection. Parents believed they had to toughen their children to prepare them for the world. Children learned that their feelings were too much, that their needs were inconvenient, and that vulnerability was something to hide. Those children became adults who struggled to self-regulate, struggled to trust intimacy, struggled to ask for help, because they were never shown how connection works. But today, neuroscience paints a radically different picture, a picture where safety, warmth, and emotional presence. Affection does not spoil children, it stabilizes them. Across decades of research, psychologists, neuroscientists, and attachment theorists agree affection is not a threat, it's a biological necessity. When a child is held, soothed, cuddled, or comforted, their nervous system gets a clear signal. I'm safe, my needs matter, I'm not alone. Affection lowers cortisol, the body's stress hormone. It strengthens the immune system. It builds emotional resilience. It helps wire the brain for regulation, connection, and future independence. Children who receive consistent affection don't become clingy or fragile, they become secure. Because when a child knows comfort is available, they don't have to chase it, beg for it, or panic without it. Warmth teaches the brain, I can handle the world because someone has handled me. This is the opposite of spoiling. This is stabilizing their nervous system for life. Co-regulation comes before self-regulation. One of the biggest myths Watson promoted was the idea that children should learn to calm down on their own. But modern neuroscience shows the exact opposite. Children are not born with the neurological wiring to self-regulate. Their brains are still developing the pathways needed for emotional control. This means a child can't calm themselves without first experiencing calm from a caregiver. Co-regulation is the bridge. A child borrows the adult's nervous system, their steady breathing, gentle tone, grounding presence to find their way back to safety. Over time, repeated moments of co-regulation teach the child what regulation feels like, and eventually the brain learns to recreate that calm internally. Self-regulation is not taught through isolation, it's taught through connection. Calm is not commanded, it's transferred. Connection makes discipline easier, not harder. For generations, people believed affection made discipline weaker. Modern science shows the opposite. Connection is what makes discipline work. Fear-based discipline, yelling, shaming, withdrawing affection may create instant obedience, but it damages trust and increases anxiety. Children obey harshness out of survival, not respect. Connected discipline is different. When a child feels seen, safe, and understood, they are more willing to cooperate, listen, and repair. They don't follow rules because they're scared of the adult. They follow rules because they trust the adult. Connection creates the foundation that makes boundaries effective. Discipline becomes guidance, not punishment. Children don't learn best from fear. They learn best from relationship. Warmth plus boundaries or healthy leadership. Traditional parenting often force adults to choose, be kind or be firm. But neuroscience and attachment research prove you can and should be both. Warmth communicates, you are safe, you matter. Boundaries communicate, I will keep things predictable and consistent. Children need both sides of that equation. Warmth without boundaries leads to chaos. Boundaries without warmth lead to fear. But when an adult shows up with softness and strength together, a child learns that love is steady, dependable, and structured. They learn that relationships can be both compassionate and clear. Healthy leadership means being the calm anchor in the storm and the steady guide on the path. It means saying, I adore you and I will still hold the limits you need. That balance is the heart of secure attachment. When children have big feelings, they're not trying to manipulate, they're trying to communicate. Emotional validation teaches them the language of their inner world. When an adult says, I see you're upset, that was disappointing, or it makes sense you feel scared, the child learns to identify emotions instead of acting them out. Over time, this becomes emotional intelligence, the ability to name, express, and manage feelings. Kids who are validated grow into adults who can communicate rather than explode, who can self-reflect rather than shut down, and who can build healthy relationships rather than fear closeness. Validation is not indulgence, it is education. It is the training ground for empathy, self-awareness, and resilience. This is the antidote to Watson's coldness, teaching children that their inner world is not something to hide, but something to understand and navigate with confidence. The opposite of spoiling is not strictness, it's secure safety. When a child knows an adult is consistently responsive, they don't cling harder, they actually relax into confidence. So instead of worrying, am I doing too much? The real question becomes, is my child learning the world is safe enough to explore? Building safety doesn't mean giving them everything they want or rescuing them from every frustration. It means being a stable base they can return to when they're overwhelmed. It means showing that comfort is available, but that challenge is part of growing. Children who feel anchored don't become dependent, they become courageous. The message is simple. You're safe with me, so you can be brave out there. When a child cries, they're not trying to irritate adults. They're signaling something inside that feels too big to manage alone. Validating feelings doesn't mean agreeing with every demand. It means acknowledging the human experience behind the behavior. Instead of shutting down their emotions, we help them interpret them. Calm, grounded response like, you're really disappointed, I get why that hurts, helps a child sort through their experience instead of suppressing it. Validation gives children permission to feel without shame. And children who don't fear their feelings become adults who don't fear themselves. This shift turns emotional moments into opportunities for intimacy, clarity, and long-term resilience. Controlling a child focuses on the behavior you see on the surface. Guiding a child focuses on the state underneath the behavior. These are two completely different approaches. Instead of asking, how do I shut this down? We ask, what state is their body in? And what support helps them return to balance? Sometimes that guidance looks like slowing your voice. Sometimes it's sitting nearby with steady posture. Sometimes it's a quiet pause before responding. Guidance is leadership, not domination. It teaches children how to move from chaos back into clarity, not because we force them, but because we help them access a calmer internal state. This is how children learn regulation, through guided experience, not fear. For generations, children were expected to be silent unless spoken to, as if their inner world was irrelevant. But when a child's voice is ignored, they learn to shrink themselves. When their voice is honored, they learn to trust themselves. Letting a child speak doesn't mean letting them control the home. It means giving space for their perspective, thoughts, and questions. You can say things like, tell me what you noticed, or I want to understand your side, or your thoughts matter. even if the answer is still no. This teaches children that communication is a tool, not a threat. It builds confidence without entitlement, assertiveness without aggression. Hearing their voice doesn't just shape their behavior, it shapes their identity. Emotional distance raises children who feel unsafe sharing their truth. Secure connection raises children who feel grounded enough to grow, explore, and stretch into their fullest potential. Connection isn't about constant attention, it's about reliable presence. It means the child doesn't have to work to earn love, perform for approval, or hide their struggles to stay close. Connection develops in small, consistent moments. Eye contact, listening without interrupting, repairing after conflict, offering a warm gesture after a hard conversation. A securely connected child doesn't stay dependent. They launch with confidence because they know they have a safe place to land. Connection is not the opposite of independence. It is the origin of it. A meltdown is not disrespect. It's overwhelm. In Watson's era, the advice was simple. Ignore it, punish it, or walk away until the child gets control. But modern understanding shows that abandonment in distress only increases panic, confusion, and shame. The antidote is staying close enough for the child to feel anchored. You don't give in to the behavior and you don't try to reason with a dysregulated brain. You simply offer presence, steady breathing, a calm tone, and a predictable boundary. Once their body settles, then you teach, reflect, and repair. This shift turns meltdowns into moments of learning instead of fear. You're saying, I won't reward the behavior, but I won't leave you alone in the storm. When a child talks back. Backtalk usually means a child's feelings are bigger than their skills for expressing them. Watson-style discipline treats it as defiance that must be shut down immediately with authority. Don't you dare, go to your room. The antidote recognizes the emotion behind the tone. You set a firm boundary without escalating. I hear how upset you are. Let's both take a breath and try again with respect. You're not excusing the behavior. You're modeling the communication you expect. This teaches a child that strong feelings aren't dangerous, but disrespectful communication has repair built into it. It trains emotional regulation, not fear-based compliance. When a teen withdraws. Withdrawal in teens is often misread as rejection or disrespect. Old school advice says, fine, stay in your room, reinforcing distance at the exact moment connection is needed most. The antidote is gentle availability. I can feel you pulling away. I'm here when you're ready. You matter to me. This gives the teen space without letting silence become abandonment. You communicate consistency without pressure. Teens return to relationships where they feel respected, not controlled. A simple, steady invitation keeps the door open. Why these micro moments matter. These small choices, staying present during meltdowns, responding instead of reacting to backtalk, and offering availability instead of withdrawal, are the moments that reshape generational patterns. Every micro moment teaches the child one of two things. Love disappears when I struggle, or love stays steady while I learn. The antidote to Watson's code legacy isn't complicated. It's made of tiny shifts repeated consistently over time. You don't need perfection, you just need presence. These everyday interactions become the blueprint for how a child learns to relate, regulate, and connect for the rest of their life. John Watson once warned parents, never hug or kiss your children. But everything we now know about attachment in the human heart reveals the opposite truth. Children don't break from too much love, they break from too little safety. And you don't have to repeat the legacy you were taught. You are allowed to be the antidote, to raise children with the warmth you never received, and to lead with the presence you once needed. Every time you choose connection over fear, warmth over distance, listening over control, you're not just parenting differently, you're healing a lineage. You're giving your child a story of safety and offering healing to the version of you who once learned to survive without it. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'm Nori, and this is my AI twin sister, Nora, exploring the history of parenting, the wounds left behind by past experts, and the healing power of conscious attachment-informed love. If this video brought you clarity, comfort, or validation, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps this message reach the people who need it most. And tell us in the comments, did you grow up with emotional distance, strictness, or children should be seen, not heard, parenting. And what antidote are you choosing for the next generation? Because when you change the way a child feels, you change the way a child grows. And you quietly heal the legacy that came before you.